Okay, switching gears to our next question. I'm actually going to jump off and go in a little bit of a different order because you mentioned debt and financing in some of your answers to that last question. Uh, this is a topic that I'm pretty passionate about because I've just seen businesses. I know there are businesses that leverage debt responsibly. They do it with a strategic vision in mind. They're doing it to allow themselves to have leverage for profitability. But then I see other practices fall into a trap where debt becomes an avalanche, and it's just a snowball that they can never quite break free from, that just destroys their business, over years and sometimes a decade plus. How do you go about recommending debt management and ensuring that it's a tool if and when you're using it? Or how do you think about that in general, and how to avoid the pitfalls that come with leveraging debt, and making sure that you have a vision for growth associated with it?
Okay, so first of all, debt management or financing management is about cash flow. And that obviously we're not going to talk about the cash flow that comes from your revenue and the sales of products and other things. That's one way in which cash is being brought in. A lot of practices don't realize how much cash that they have on the shelf in terms of inventory. So you're trying to mitigate about taking any external financing and putting interest expense onto your income statement, because it will impact your profitability. You do get a tax deduction. It can be part of an EBITDA calculation when you're ready to go ahead and sell your practice. I get all of that. But, I find that a lot of practices don't very well manage their cash. And so therefore, and it goes from inventory management to operational efficiencies, where they're, to selection of vendors, to amalgamation of sitting with one or two vendors and trying to maximize on their rebate or refund policies and so forth. People just don't do enough to be efficient with just the cash that they have. Okay, so we're not all efficient and so forth, and at some point in time, either for expansion reasons or growth reasons or whatever and so forth, they go ahead and have to go ahead and borrow money. The one area that I see where this is probably, and it's all about planning and the development of a new SPAR or a new entity. Most people go in thinking that they're just going to either acquire something or take on a lease space and so forth, put a little money into the walls and the rugs and so forth, and don't purchase the equipment, don't do a lot of other things, spend a ton of money in marketing, spend a ton of money, in getting the providers, and then they run out of money to do all of the other important things that they, just weren't able to do. And then when they look at the competition, realize how far they're behind, they rush out to the bank to try to go ahead and do that. I would say that you need to put the brakes on. And, capital, especially recently, has not been cheap. Whether you're using your credit card at 14 or 15 or 16%, it's probably the most dangerous debt vehicle that you could use, because that catches up with you, and suddenly there are thousands of dollars of extra interest expense that's going on that credit card. I get the points. I get how what you're doing it and why you're doing it and so forth. But I think that people should be a lot more conservative about jumping out and making either large purchases or making simultaneous purchases across the plethora of demands that med spas and derm practices and plastic surgery and overall aesthetic practices have out there. At my age, you want to be at least, and in my cohort, I guess I should say, at my age and my cohort, the American dream is to rip up that 30-year mortgage and to be debt-free and, set into the sunset and so forth without any liabilities on your balance sheet. I'm not so sure that's the same mentality of millennials and Gen Zs at this point in time. They may be just as happy of dying with a massive liability and extending it to their children and to their grandchildren. Good luck with that relationship moving ahead in the future and so. But you just have to be you just have to be careful out there, and that also means not planning out and not metering out the development, because these med spas and this aesthetics industry, if left alone, it would be very easy to be able to spend $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, $1 million, $2 million very, very quickly. And you don't need to do that. And despite the fact that you think that money, talks and it will make a difference from a competitive standpoint, that's not always the case. It's about how you use that money and how you've been using the money and the cash that you're generating from the existing business that you have. I try to get practices to make investments, to realize that there may be some losses in the first year, that they may have to have a little kitty to be able to back up certain months, within the first year to 18 months. But you should not have a plan beyond 18 months in which you are finally getting to a positive or a neutral, positive or neutral cash flow position in the practice. Otherwise, you're over investing. And as I think we talked about before the show started, you're chasing that tail for the next several years, and even after any change in control of your business.
I could not agree with that more, and I love that advice. Like, I think one of the saddest things is talking to a practice owner that's been in business for years and years and years, and to find out that on the surface, they're doing $100,000 a month plus in revenue, and then come to find out they're so over leveraged in debt that they can't take home a paycheck, and they have no profitability. It's like you're not even running a business; you're just donating your time at this point to something that's just destroying your life. So I love that advice. That's awesome. Thank you so much. I'm excited to share those tidbits.